Hello everyone, I'm Abhishek Chakravarti. I'm a faculty at Daksha Fellowship and I specialize in environmental law. For today's session, we are going to discuss on the 2020 draft EIA notification, and the moot question is whether this policy is a regressive policy. Let me start off this session with 3 incidents which happened in last 1 year in different parts of India. If I may take your attention towards the PowerPoint presentation, let me bring your attention to the first incident, which is the Baghjan oil well blowout case in Assam. So, this incident took place on 27th of May this year in a small village called Baghjan in Upper Assam, which lies in a very eco-sensitive zone and is rich in biodiversity. Close to the area, within 5-6 kilometer radius of the village, you have around 7 oil wells. Apart from that, you have a national park called the Dibru-Saikhowa National Park, which is also a biosphere reserve. You have a wildlife sanctuary and you have an important bird area, which is Maguri Motapung wetland, apart from different tea gardens and agricultural fields in the region. So, once this gas started spewing uncontrollably, there was a fire on 9th of June, and this fire actually burned down the entire village, and the crude oil started spilling and it destroyed the entire wetland, causing a lot of damage to the ecosystem, the agricultural fields, and also there had been numerous reports of death of river dolphins and other wildlife in the area. And while trying to fight the fire, a lot of firefighters from Oil India Limited also died in the process. And looking at the gravity of the incident, finally the NGT decided to constitute a committee under Justice B.P. Kotoki to investigate the cause and impact of the blowout. And in the investigation, it was found out that Oil India did not have the consents, the mandatory clearances, neither from the State Pollution Control Board nor from the Ministry of Environment and Forests. So, basically it did not have the prior environmental clearances, and also before carrying out these operations, the Supreme Court had ordered Oil India in 2017 to carry out a biodiversity impact assessment, and it was reportedly not carried out by Oil India Limited. So, this was the first incident. The second incident which happened was the Vizag gas leak case at LG Polymers plant in Visakhapatnam, in which nearly 12 people died and 500 people were hospitalized. And even in this case, it was seen that since 1997, LG Polymers was carrying out operations without a prior environmental clearance. And in fact, in an affidavit dated May 10th, 2019, in a response to a query from the State Environment Impact Assessment Authority, the company admitted that it had been operating without any necessary environmental clearances. And the third incident again comes from a place close to Baghjan, which is Dibru-Saikhowa National Park, which is also a biosphere reserve. And in India, we have a handful of biosphere reserves which are of great biological importance in the country. In this national park itself, inside the national park, 7 oil wells were given clearance for drilling, and the clearances were given to Oil India Limited. And when the expert appraisal committee was questioned why the clearance was given, the purpose, the statement which they gave was that the oil wells were of national importance. But here comes a question that how do you look at national importance, right? Is it just getting money out of oil wells, or the biological importance of the area, because it's a biosphere reserve after all. Now, I discussed these 3 incidents which happened in a span of 1 year, and from the 3 incidents, one thing is very clear, is that our EIA mechanism which is in place right now itself is already weak. Now, the question which comes is, should we further weaken an already weak EIA system? Now coming to the main part of the discussion is, let us come to the draft EIA notification 2020. So what are the major contentions which we see here? So the first is dilution of public participation. So in any democratic process, public participation is of utmost importance. And in any developmental project, what we see is that the public are the most affected people from the consequences of the project. So in the EIA process itself, the views of the people who are going to be directly impacted by the project is of immense importance. And here in the draft EIA notification, what we see is that public participation is being diluted. Let us look at it how. If we look into different countries, we see that in US, 45 days are given to the public to give comments on any draft EIA. But in this context, what we are doing is that from our existing 30 days, we are trying to bring it down to 20 days for people to give comments on the draft EIA. Second, a certain category of projects which are termed as B2 category of projects, which includes mining in less than 5 hectares of area, oil explorations, dams up to 25 megawatts, small and medium scale cement industries, and inland waterways, micro, small, medium synthetic rubber and chemical industries are all exempted from public hearing process. I mean, let's look at oil exploration. If you exempt any kind of oil exploration, has the risk, as we saw in the Baghjan case, it can have a tremendous impact on the local area if there's an oil spill or a fire blowout. And if in such industries, if you don't take the public's opinion, I mean, if tomorrow there's such an incident as it happened in Baghjan, there can be a huge conflict between the industry and the local people. Now coming to the most draconian part of this dilution of public participation is that according to the draft notification, citizens cannot raise complaints in case of non-compliance of EC conditions. So basically what right now the conditions are that only the project proponent or the government can make cognizable complaints. Now the funny part is that which industry will come up and raise a complaint against itself. And also we see that public participation and its importance is being emphasized in a lot of judgments, including Samarth Trust case, where the Delhi High Court clearly states that public hearing is a form of participatory justice, giving voice to the voiceless and a place and occasion for them to express their views regarding to a project. The court further says that such a public hearing gives an opportunity to the people to raise issues pertaining to social impact and health impact of a proposed project. Similarly, the Gujarat High Court also, in the case of Center for Social Justice versus Union of India, has strongly insisted that a minimum of 30 days has to be given for public hearing, but the draft notification is trying to bring it down to 20 days. Now coming to the next contention, it's the ex post facto clearance. Right, like we have already seen in Vizag case or the Baghjan case, that not taking a prior environmental clearance has led to such a disaster. And in the draft EIA notification, they are actually proposing that certain category of projects can come up and they can take clearances later on. But however, in fact, this year itself, the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Albemic Pharmaceuticals versus Rohit Prajapati has clearly struck down such clearances and termed it as unconstitutional. In 2017, the same court gave judgments on similar lines in Common Cause versus Union of India. In 2013, Association for Environmental Protection versus State of Kerala, the Supreme Court held that commencement of projects without obtaining prior environmental clearance is a violation of fundamental right to life guaranteed to the people under Article 21. Coming to the third contention, it is that a lot of industries and projects have been excluded from the EIA process under the draft notification. So basically, all industries which come under the B2 category, like oil exploration, expansion of highways, building roads and pipelines in border areas, do not require any EIA. So many of these projects which are to come up in border areas, we see that the Indo-China border is a very eco-sensitive zone of the Himalayas. And if we exempt such projects from the EIA process, it can have immense ecological effects on the ecosystem there. And the exemption of certain category of projects is also in non-conformity to our international obligations, be it under Convention of Biodiversity or UNFCCC or our INDCs under the Paris Agreement, and many more which mandate EIA for any kind of developmental projects and industries. And this is also in contravention to the basic environmental jurisprudence of our country and principles like precautionary principle or sustainable development or the public trust doctrine. Coming to the fourth point, this draft EIA notification tries to monetize environmental violations. Basically, it absurdly commodifies environmental damage to be countered with monetary compensation. So in case of failure of submission of the yearly compliance report, an industry has to pay rupees 500, 1000 and 2500 for B2, B1 and A category respectively per year. Now let us take an example of a oil and gas industry. If it fails to submit yearly compliance report for one entire year, it basically has to pay a fine of rupees 1,82,500, while in the same year it would be making millions in terms of profit. So basically any industry would pay a mere amount of profit and go away with violations. Besides this, what the draft EIA now requires is that the compliance report, which was earlier to be made once in every 6 months, now has to be done once every year. Apart from that, the validity of clearances for mining projects have been increased from existing 30 years to 50 years. For river valley projects, the clearance have been extended from 15 years from the existing 10 years. Also for EIA process, the baseline data which is collected would now be collected only for one season. Now let us assume, suppose there is a baseline data collected from a wetland which has a lot of migratory birds coming in during winters. Now if the baseline data is taken in summer season, the ecological importance of the area would of course come down. In the light of all the above contentions which I just stated, we also see that there are several legal concerns which come up. First of all, that this is against the statutory requirements under Section 3 of the Environment Protection Act. It is also in non-conformity to our international obligations under the Rio Declaration, the Convention on Biological Diversity, the United Nations Framework on Climate Change, and our INDCs. Also, it is against the constitutional provisions under Article 21, 48A and 51G. It violates basic environmental law principles like precautionary principle, polluters pay principle, sustainable development, and public trust doctrine. Apart from this, the draft EIA is also contrary to several judgments, including the recent Albemic Pharmaceuticals versus Rohit Prajapati, wherein the court clearly condemned post facto clearances and struck them down. So we have already discussed the four major contentions of the draft EIA notification 2020. Apart from those primary contentions, there are also certain legal concerns which come up. including first that it is against the statutory requirements under Section 3 of the Environment Protection Act. It is in non-conformity to our international obligations under Rio Declaration, Convention on Biological Diversity, and United Nations Framework on Climate Change, our INDCs. It is also against constitutional provisions, especially Article 21, Article 48A, and 51G. It violates basic principles of environmental law like precautionary principle, polluters pay principle, sustainable development, and public trust doctrine. So, we shall be discussing the details and we shall go in depth into the legal concerns and also the judgments which are contrary to the draft EIA notifications 2020 in our upcoming classes.